So the first question was, does he need more power? I don't know if need is the right word. I think that it would provide a more focused vision and a more, it'd be easier for government operations to go on effectively if he had them, he or she. But it's not necessarily a need. I think that a lot of times people are confused when they come from the outside, and what I'm speaking more specifically of in the economic development realm, people in the community, they don't understand our government structure. And so when people approach government, they typically approach a mayor's office feeling as though that person has the unique ability to move things in a certain direction. Because ours doesn't. There's this tug of war between the mayor's office and the commission and the administrator. I add that as well. And between those three bodies, it creates confusion. And so I think that increased authority is important for the community to get what they're asking for. Now, but I think it should be piecemeal. I don't think it's something you do unilaterally. And again, this is something I've talked to most of the commissioners about already. Just over the last few years, it's been a discussion. I think that the commissioners currently, vote. The mayor doesn't have a vote. The mayor doesn't have a veto. The mayor doesn't control the budget. The mayor doesn't hire and fire department heads. The mayor doesn't place people on boards other than the housing authority and maybe one more. All of those are things that the commission, other than the veto, have. I think more balance is there. More balance would give the community more confidence that the lead official in which they've hired to be their CEO is actually able to do the job that they expect of them.
Well, first and foremost, I understand the powers that are authorized to the mayor as they exist today. Any discussions regarding granting the mayor more power or more authority needs to come through the voters in the form of a special referendum. And this is one thing that I've said. Any changes to the charter granting more power or authority needs to be taken to the voters. That decision should not be made by the commission, nor should it be made by the state, our local legislative delegation, nor the Georgia General Assembly. It needs to be put before the voters in the form of a special referendum for the voters of Richmond County to decide if there's any additional powers granted to the mayor. And I'd be willing to take that a step forward, and I've pledged this. In the event that the voters decide that it's time to address the charter and grant more power to the mayor, I would expect no less than to have to go back and run for that seat again. I don't want the powers to be granted to me. I want the voters to decide the charter needs to be changed, grant the mayor more power, and then I want to go back before the voters and argue my case on why I feel as though I'm the best person to assume that seat. So I would never ask or take a power-grabbing move and then assume those powers. That's not who I am. And that's bolden because not a lot of people will say that. Say, hey, I'm a mayor now, give me the power. That's not the case. The vote should be determined by the people, and the power should remain in the people. And then if that charter is changed, and that mayor is given more authority, I would expect no less than it to have what I call some teeth to it. It needs to have some recall abilities and some recall authority in the event that they don't elect the right mayor, that mayor is held accountable to some standard. Well, I'll go on the record and say any improvement for Regency Mall is needed. And I'll also go on the record and say that oftentimes I've always said I'm not a talker, I'm a doer. I would never present anything to the community as a plan without making sure that the funding resources and mechanisms are in place to get them done. I don't believe in giving people false hope. Not saying that this project is false hope, but I believe in let's celebrate ribbon cuts more so than giving people false hope and sense of things are coming that are coming. I have been in conversations with a lot of not only community stakeholders and other business leaders that have plans throughout the city, not only for the Regency Mall project, but all sectors of our city. We don't make announcements based on conversations or speculation. You make announcements when you've crossed all your T's and dotted all your I's, and you make sure that this project is going to be a project to come to fruition before you make any announcements. But any improvements to Regency Mall, if it's a project, is an improvement for our city.
Well, I mean, if anybody takes a look at what's there now, any type of improvement, it could be transformational. But this is a very unique opportunity in that we've never been this far before. I've heard people say that this perhaps is more of the same, pretty pictures, but this isn't the same. This is an opportunity that's different in that the actual owner and developer has hired engineers and architects to actually submit a plan to planning and development that describes what could be a transformational look at that corridor. Nothing in that corridor, if you look at the parcels around what's to the west, east, and to the north of it, you have shopping centers that are there that are run down. You have a few car dealerships going west that are still there, but still one's closing. It is just not the type of space it could be. Well, I've always had an economic development mindset that says businesses follow residents. You look at places like Grovetown and you say, what happened first? Did all the businesses go to Grovetown, or did the people move there first? And what happens is the people move there. And so you place up to 2,000 people in a property, all of a sudden businesses have to come and serve those people. There's opportunity for entrepreneurs. And so with what the owner is proposing as it relates to residences, he also has proposed to bring those same restaurants and commercial space and performing arts theater to create an environment so that those residents can have some of those businesses on that site. But I believe it's going to be great for the area because there's a Waffle House across in Southgate Plaza and a Burger King and a dentist. All of those immediately get a new wave of customers who wouldn't regularly come by their stores that are right there within a couple of 100 yards because now they live there. That is the type of change that needs to happen in that part of town. You add the residents, you add the activity, and the businesses soon follow. So right now, the city, of course, owns that stadium, has leased out 80 particular days a year to C4 for their use. I think the city was at a crossroads in trying to determine what to do with that asset. Its ingress and egress is not great. Certainly the reason why the Green Jackets moved out is because it had begun to get in disrepair. I just don't know how the city prioritizes placing more money into that asset versus all the other needs it has. While some people continue to talk about the city having a spending problem, and I certainly think there's some improvements we need to do there, we have a revenue problem too, in that we're not bringing in enough money. Putting more money into that and it's not a revenue producer is something that I think could be has to be thought through a little better. Putting money in other recreational facilities that we rent regularly and that are used regularly is one thing, but deciding on what that venue needs to be, whether it needs to be a baseball stadium or some type of outdoor amphitheater or something like that, needs to be decided. I was hopeful with what C4's vision was for that space, and it was very disappointing that they ran into the issues with the ground and the infrastructure and the sinking. Hopefully that's going to get resolved to some point, because if it doesn't work for them, it's not going to work for anybody. And so if there's a remedy for that, I hope that remedy gets put into place so that we can figure out what exactly we do, and we don't allow that just to sit there and decay over time. I'm hopeful that at some point that we take a look at figuring out whether we invest it or that we sell it to someone so that they can invest in it and use it.
Well, as I understand it now, the Augusta Economic Development Authority, in conjunction with the CVB, have a lease agreement with a third-party company that is supposed to be hosting concerts and community events. That corridor, that property sits in one of the most beautiful parts of our city. It borders, of course, Lake Olmstead, and it borders the Augusta Canal, and I think it's a gem. I would like to learn more about that lease agreement. I would like to get that property back into what I consider into the hands of the city, to where we can have community-related things. We can get economic improvements done to make sure that it's providing lifestyle opportunities for the citizens of Augusta. As I understand now, the property unfortunately is in disrepair, and I would like to really take a look at the agreement that's in place, see if we can get out of that agreement, and then we get that property back in the county hands to where we could realize an opportunity from an economic development perspective to grant lifestyle opportunities for the citizens of Augusta, Richmond County, and for the region. Well, you know, it's interesting that the current mayor has assembled a task force, and I think it's been their recommendation to remove those monuments. I can tell you, I grew up and was born and raised down in East Augusta, and I tell people this all the time. Those monuments have never done anything to me to hamper me from becoming the person who I am. As I understand, most of those monuments are protected under state law, and as a local government, I don't think we have any ability to change or remove anything. I think the conversation needs to continue about how we can improve Augusta for everybody, and let's get on one conversation about how we can get Augusta growing and going again. That's most important. And then at some point, if there's a conversation to be had about monuments, let's have that conversation. Let's get our economy growing from an economic development standpoint. Let's get our city growing from a population standpoint. But at this point, addressing any monuments that we don't have control over from a city perspective is not one of my first priorities. Even though the monument in front of this building means nothing to me, but it means something to somebody. It's history. There's something that you can't remove history by removing a monument. Then to remove that monument, it takes dollars. Who's going to pay for it? Then to remove that monument, to be respectful of the ones that really it means something to, you have to find a place for it. I would not be willing to commit any city or county resources, no resources, at a time like this when we're at an all-time high for inflation, all-time high for gas prices, to remove a monument. I would not be. That's not a priority right now. We need to get Augusta growing. We need to grow our tax base. We need to grow our population. We need to grow our small businesses, and that will be my focus.
So, I'll go on record as saying that perhaps the citizens need to weigh in. And so because it seems to be such an issue for the community, we did a task force. The task force made recommendations to the commission body. I believe they should accept that, if they have that will, accept that commission, that the recommendations of that commission, or that body, should I say. Maybe not in totality, but at least peruse them and decide which ones are best suited for us right now. But I've given some thought to perhaps the community needs to weigh in as well. This is one in which I certainly don't agree that they don't matter. The theory of they're not bothering me and I've walked by them and it's never affected what I've done is not a thought process that I take at all. I look at it as perhaps for me, I think they could and should be moved to places where they can be honored by those who want to honor them. I don't think they should be destroyed. I think it is a part of history. It might not be a part of history that some in the community are proud of, but I think it's something to be addressed. I use this comparison sometimes. I've been married a couple of times, and you look at it and you have a family, you move into a house. And you've got a family that obviously had a father before. He's married to one that got fathers before. And the little kids sometimes, though, don't recognize everything that's going on, but they love the family unit they had. And so in the new house you're moving into, this living room, the kids want to put the pictures of their old nuclear family right there on the wall. And you understand it. They're small kids. They don't get it. This new person is here. But they want to honor what they know. And in that instance, I kind of believe that you don't destroy the picture of the whole family, but can we put the picture in your room so it can be honored in your room, so that you can continue to worship it and look at it the way you do without being disrespectful to those of us like me who don't necessarily honor that in the same way. Well, I look at the statues and monuments the same way. I'm not saying move the monuments and destroy them. I say let's place it somewhere where you can honor them and have the choice to honor them in the way in which you feel is okay, so that those of us who may feel like they sometimes provide a reminder to others of a time that we don't care to always remember, so that we don't have to be reminded of that so blatantly in public. Place them somewhere where everybody can look at them and honor them the way they're supposed to. I think that's a fair resolution, but I'm certainly okay if the public decides.